Hello.
Good evening, everybody.
How we doing?
How y'all doing?
I'm doing
Saw each other
amazing.
yesterday, but we seen each other today. Ain't got good. All right, we're back. Go ahead, co-host.
All right. Good evening, everybody. You saw us yesterday as we were doing our show, and as we promised, today we're going to speak to Elijah Manley. As we understand it, he's one of the 4 Democratic candidates. We found out yesterday there's no Republican in the race for House District 94. Okay, he ran for this seat before in 2020, and he's able to run right now in this special election because the holder of the seat, Bobby DuBose, had to resign to run as he ran for the United States congressional seat of District 20. And although he wasn't successful in that race, he had to resign his seat. And now we have the special election. Elijah and 3 other men, from what I understand, are part of this race. And because there's no Republican opponent, once whoever has the top number of votes on January 11th will be the winner, and they'll be able to start serving as soon right immediately. They do not have to wait for the March 3rd election race, March 8th election, like the state district 33 candidate. So we're excited. I met Elijah in person finally, I believe, at a Dolphin Democrat meeting sometime this year, but I felt like I've known him since I've been following him since the 2020 election cycle. I was like low-key stalking him, watching him on every panel, So it's a pleasure. I'm glad to see him get another opportunity at this, and we wish him nothing but success. But now he's going to tell you guys why it is that he believes that he should be the person to represent District 94. But I don't know if my co-host Narnique wants to say something before Elijah does his intro, and then we start asking him questions.
Just like, share, and subscribe. We're on Facebook and YouTube, as you know. Remember, this platform is to bring our candidates in, to get our community engaged and be politically engaged with our elected officials and candidates. So this is very important for us. And we're looking, and I've known Elijah since I was running back in 2020, and this kid is on fire. Okay, love everything about this kid. Let me stop saying kid, because I don't want people to think that you don't know what you're doing, because you are savvy. You know what you're doing. You know the issues, and I'm just excited that you're consistent, because consistency is key. And I just can't wait to see what you got for us.
All right, go ahead, Elijah. Tell us why you run. Tell us who you are and what it is you're doing and why you're running.
Well, thank you. Thank both of you for inviting me on today. I had a very long day, but I love tuning into you guys' show. I always get a good laugh. I always learn a little bit of something. I always get a little bit of information from you. And I've known both of you for a while now. I've known Sandra, but like Sandra said, I was good meeting you at the Dolphin Dems in person. It feels like we were separated for a while with the pandemic, but it was so great to see you. And it's great to see Narnique too, who I voted for last year for school board. I will put that out there. But like I said, I'm Elijah Manley. I'm running for state representative for District 94, which is the seat that Bobby DuBose is leaving in January. That is a central Broward seat that consists of Fort Lauderdale, most of it, the western parts of Woodland Manor, some Oakland Park, some Plantation, some Lauderdale Lakes, and some Lauderdale. And the special election is on January 11th. I'm running for this seat. I ran in 2020, but I'm running for this seat now because I believe and I know that I'm the one that could deliver the results for this district. We're entering what's going to be a very important legislative session in January, and we need somebody there that knows this issue, that understands these issues and how they impact our community, and will be able to deliver the resources that we need here, from appropriations projects to introducing legislation in the future that will tackle some of the issues that we face, whether that's infrastructure. I know everyone is talking about their water, they're talking about flooding, everyone's talking about how expensive housing is, everyone's talking about a lot of these issues. And some of these are my priorities and some of the issues that I want to tackle. I'm from this community. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I grew up right on 6th Street, right off of 20th Avenue and 6th Street. And I went to the great Fort Lauderdale High School. I'm a flying L. I know Dr. Osmond on here. She was also a flying L.
Yeah.
I attended Broward College for history. I will be going to grad school for sociology and history sometime in the future. I know I look a little young to some people, but I am young. I'm still in school. And I'm very glad to be a part of this community, to grow up in this community, to really see everything in the streets. I've seen everything from homelessness to having an impossibility to get food sometimes. And so I've seen all of that. I've experienced all of that. I know this district like the back of my hand. If someone tell me a street, I know exactly the other intersection. So I'm from here, and I'm running in this race because I truly believe that I'm the person that can best represent this entire district.
All right. So you talked about a couple of things, and I have to tell you, so I did interview you last time when you were running in 2020, and I mean, we talked about, I know you're involved in the environmental caucus, right? They just newly formed an environmental caucus. I believe you're like the VP of the environmental caucus, and Stephen Meza is the president. A lot of other good people as part of that, right? And then I remember asking you, I was like, well, Black people don't care about environmental issues, right? And Elijah goes like, they want clean water to come out that sink when they turn it on, right?
That's right. That's right.
And I was like, it sounds about right, because we always think like, environmental issues, that's like hippie granola or West Coast Oregon, California thing, right? We don't care about that in Florida. And he was like, yeah, you do. You want, when you turn that water on, you can actually use it. So tell us about like some of the environmental issues that you're championing, that you think is real important. We saw a panel that happened a couple of days ago, but I finally got to watch it today, and it seemed as though like a lot of people don't really understand the importance of like a lot of the the Green New Deal and some of these other environmental issues. Can you explain it a little bit? Tell us like what do you plan on doing, or if you can do anything? Should that be something that just the state of Florida itself should be concerned about, or is it going to be a need for the federal government to be involved in us trying to do something with all the algae and the red ties and the blue ties and all the stuff that a lot of people don't understand?
Right. Well, that's a really good question. I think you hit the nail on the head pretty clearly. There are a lot of people who don't understand the importance of this issue. This is one of the most important issues of our lifetime right now. And this has been called the greatest national security threat to the United States. This is the largest security threat to global security to the whole world. Climate change and sea level rise, and particularly for South Florida, for a place that is a coastal community and on sea level, climate change is extremely important. We're going to see some of the catastrophic effects of this issue if we don't get our act together. The scientific community has expressed their concerns. They have been ringing the alarm bell for decades. And they just did the same thing in August of 2020, August of this year, with the IPCC report that came out that called climate change a code red for humanity. And what they're saying is, if the Earth warms past 1.5 degrees Celsius, we're done. That is the end. It is irreversible. Now, we have to prevent ourselves from getting to that point. And there are a lot of policies that we could implement, and I'm looking forward to implementing in the legislation that could solve this. Like Sandra said, I support the Green New Deal. That is the most aggressive policy to tackle climate change. While the Green New Deal is a framework that tells us what we need to do. There are a lot of policies within that because we need to stop banning fracking and offshore oil drilling and drilling on land domestically. That we need to protect our water from things like red tide and blue-green algae. We need to move quickly 100% away from fossil fuel energy to energy sufficiency and self-sufficiency by 2030. So there are a lot of things that we could do, that we need to do, and we're on the path to doing some of those things, but we're not moving fast enough. And so what I can do on the state level, because I know a lot of national issues, our Congress people have to do this, the president needs to make this part of his agenda, is the most important part of this is the states, because the federal government can pass whatever, but then they have to send that funding down to the state level, and the states, one of these states run by Republicans, must implement that money in a responsible way. So some of what I want to do is make sure that the infrastructure that we have here in our city, in our community, is strong enough to withstand hurricanes, withstand flooding as a result of sea level rise, which we're seeing in places like Melrose Park, we're seeing in places like Lauderdale Manors, we're seeing in places like Rock Island, where it rains for a couple of hours, and then next thing you know, your car is underwater. You can't drive, it's stalling because of this. And this is because people in Tallahassee have not made this a priority. They have refused to make this issue a priority. They have refused to put the funding where it needs to be. And so when I go to Tallahassee, one of my priorities is to get the funding so that our municipal partners and Fort Lauderdale and other cities can get the funding that they need to really do what they need to do with stormwater treatment, to replace like 5 ash water treatment facility, which I believe they're already focusing on doing. and a couple other things. So I don't want to sound too wonky. I know this is a lot of stuff, a lot of information, but that's just the very beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's part of the issue. It's a whole greater issue. It takes national and federal dollars. It takes a worldwide commitment away from fossil fuels and working together to do this.
So even if people don't want the federal government to be involved, they kind of need to be involved because the money needs to come from them, right? Because the state is not really in a position to fund what it would take, right? Is that part of what you're saying? The other question I have is like, does Florida have the talent of people that they would need to really put together an environmental plan or project that would really make a difference? Do they have the talent here to do that?
So we do. I mean, I wish we had more of them in the legislature. I know we have champions of this issue like Representative Escamani, who has been, along with Representative Carlos Smith and others, a lot of others, I don't leave anyone out, that are really championing this issue in Tallahassee. I mean, Representative Escamani has introduced this bill every session. She's introduced legislation on the environment every session. Of course, it dies because Republicans kill it and they don't let it get out of committee. But some of this stuff is very, very common sense. You think people care about clean water. You think people will look at that issue and say, yeah, I want clean water, because it's not a partisan issue. It's not a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. This is a life or death situation. This is about our children. This is about our parents, our grandparents. It's about making sure that when we turn that faucet on, nothing other than clear water comes out of that faucet. I don't want yellow water. I don't want green water. I don't want to hear what I've been hearing over in South Middle River, or what I've been hearing in Brooklyn Park, or what I've been hearing in Melrose, where people turn on the water and coming out of the faucet is, yellow water. So we do have the talent, but we also have the talent in other places. We have the talent in terms of our workforce. So if they do what they pass a Green New Deal, or they do what I'm saying that we need to do to invest in our infrastructure, to modernize our power grid, if they do these things, we can create tens of thousands of jobs in the process. So there are a lot of people that are looking for good paying jobs right now. And the pandemic just showed how important that issue is, and that people are looking for work. This whole myth that people aren't looking for work is false. I mean, I'm looking for work still. I'm looking for a better paying job, and Tallahassee won't be cutting it. But I know that this can create tens of thousands of jobs, because somebody has to do the construction. Somebody has to go out there and do this work. Somebody has to update the grid. Those are high paying jobs that can come into a district like mine, where we're a minority district, where we're impoverished, where we can use those resources, that funding in a district like District 94 to put people back to work, particularly our young people who are looking for work, who, we don't want to see them out on the streets, we don't want to see them in the jail, but we're not giving them the opportunity to do anything. And that's all.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more question on this. So since we see how important this is, right? Because like I said, when you simplify that as like you want clean water out of your faucet, it made sense to me. Like, how do we handle the messaging? Like, how can we let people know, like, yo, this is important for real, and this is not like some granola hippie type of issue? Like, what can we do? Because I know, for me, I feel like Democrats have been like real bad with messaging on a lot of issues, and real important ones, right? As much as I'm blue true and through, right? However, they've just been real bad on the messaging. So like, if you had to like get this messaging out to let people understand, like, listen, don't sleep on this issue. This is for real. We need to do something about that. How would you do the messaging on? How would you handle the messaging on that?
The messaging for the Democratic Party is just crazy going into a midterm year. That's the first thing. And sometimes I'll look at social media, or I'll look at what the party's saying, and I'm saying, let me write the statement. So we're talking about environment, we're talking about climate change. Let Representative Escamani, let some of our other people in the caucus that are, that understand this issue, write the messaging. And the way I talk about it is, I don't make it a partisan issue, because clean water affects everybody. Climate change is going to affect everybody. And just like there are Republicans that are taking money from fossil fuel, that are taking money from sugar, that are ignoring this issue, there are plenty of Democrats doing the same thing. And I don't hear this just from Democrats. I hear Republicans coming to me too. And they're saying, okay, well, the water, what are you going to do about the water? I'm like, they're not asking me about abortion. They're not asking me about guns. They want to know what I'm going to do about this. One lady told me today, she asked me, I got one issue I care about, and I'm voting for the person who tells me what their plan is to deal with the water. So this is not even a partisan issue. This is something we all should care about, and that we should all seek to address. So the way we talk about and message this is this issue is so important. There are two ways to do this. First, you got to broadly reach people who may not understand why these issues are happening. Instead of saying the water is nasty and I'm going to fix it, which people don't trust politicians, period. Why that is, how we're going to do it, how we're going to get the funding. There are tons of ways to get the funding to do this, and who's in a way. And I think people resonate with that as well, and talk about the history of it, which is the second thing. We talk about the history of it and how it affects certain communities. When we're talking to other Democrats and we're talking about the water too, we got to understand in some places, in some communities, some people who look like me, those communities are getting the brunt of the problem. And Black communities, I'll be blunt, Black communities, we're seeing the brunt of this issue because we've been neglected. And this issue is not because, the water is just bad. It's systemic and it's intentional, and it's been that way for a long time. And when you go in certain communities, we know for sure that they're not investing the resources in those communities for a reason. And they don't care about Black people. It's the most simple way to say it. And I think that issue, we as a party, we really have to talk about this more. It's a shame that this is not even a bigger part of the state Democratic Party's platform.
Right. And Black people need to care about themselves, and they need to understand that issue to make these people that they're voting and electing care about that as it relates to them too.
That's right. So,
co-host, you got a question or?
I do. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, for coming on yesterday and explaining to us about your race, because one of the things that we were both discussing and how disappointed we are with the governor is that these districts, for those who decided to resign to run for other seats, are now with no representation. However, in your race, there will be representation come January 11th because winner takes all. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So one of the things that but myself and co-hosts have been pushing is this bill that co-host, help me out with the name again. It's the bill where you can't record police officers. I can't remember.
I think it's something 11, right? Like HB 11 or something like that.
Yeah, it is. It's HB1. It's HB.
No, HB1 was a protest one.
Yes, it's
protest
HB,
bill. But there's another one that they're trying to put forward.
So it's HB 11, and it's being proposed by Representative Alex Rizzo. So that was one of our major concerns, and obviously others, because it is a Senate and House run Republican legislation up in Tallahassee. We talked to other candidates about, going across the aisles and talking to, your Republican colleagues. You coming in and you'll be a freshman at this time. What are some of the things that you, and I'm pretty sure you've gained some experience for running for office. What are some of the things that you see that other representatives have maybe a difficulty doing in terms of reaching across the aisle and talking to their Republican colleagues? Right. I know that we don't agree, but let's use HB 11 as an example. What would you do when elected in January?
Right. So
discussing that.
That's correct. And January, I'll be going in as a freshman, or in this case, not even a freshman, as a half year, going in to serve a half a term and one session. And, I think with Republicans, the way we have to talk to them is a little different. Now, I know that what they're doing is wrong. They know what they're doing is wrong. Everyone else knows what they're doing is wrong. We all know that I think Republicans bad. And they know that we think that. But I can't go in there and just scream at them and say, you're bad, because I have to work with these people. So part of what I think is the most important is what Republicans care about, doesn't matter what it is, they care about money. They care about what the physical impact of these issues are. So, with a Republican, I talk about climate change with them, I can't just tell them, the sea levels are going to rise, because they're going to laugh at me and say Chinese hoax, which is unfortunate that discourse. But when I talk to them, I have to tell them that climate change is not just going to affect us and our children, which alone should be enough, but this is going to affect the economy in a negative way too. We're a tourist-based economy, and when we have things like red tide and blue-green algae and stuff like that, tourists don't want to go to our beaches. They don't want to come to Florida. They don't want to invest in our economy. They don't want to go to our businesses that hurt our small businesses you all care so much about. And that's the party of business, of the party of supporting small business, so the claims to be. The party of that, to claim they're that, they should care a lot about change, just from that. So I think coming to the table and telling them this is going to affect our economy is how we get the Republicans to pay more attention, but not just on climate change. A lot of these other issues, we're talking about, violence and guns. And I don't even know how I would talk to them about, the police, not being allowed to record a police. The thing I can tell them, because we know they only care, in some cases about white people, is, say, this could be a white person, it could be your child, this could be anyone's child in a situation like this. It doesn't have to just be Black. We know it affects Black people the most intentionally, but sometimes you get, white people that get caught up in that trap too. And so, talking to them, we have to put ourselves in their shoes and understand where they're coming from, even if we disagree with it, and try to understand how we talk to them about those issues. So in Tallahassee, I will never, turn away a meeting or the opportunity to educate somebody about my experiences, my life, about my community, about the Black community, about any community, and how these issues affect us. So if they want to sit down with me and I have to tell them, this is how police violence is affecting our community. This is how climate change is affecting our community. This is how healthcare disparities are affecting my community. I want to hear your story, listen to my story, and let's work together to solve this issue. Because in the end, whatever party we're in and whatever we believe, you can call me socialist, I can call you whatever. At the end of the day, we got to drink the same water. We got to go to the same hospitals. We got to go to the same schools. We got to see the same police officers. And it's important that we all can live in our community and grow together.
All right.
Nice answer.
The rent's too damn high. That's what a guy in New York said, right?
It is.
Yeah. Rent's too high.
We're getting there.
Sandra wants the lotto money back. She wants that.
Oh yeah, I want the lotto. We're gonna talk about that next. I want that lotto money. Yeah, but housing. It's a thing, right? Like the rent is too high. One of my friends from high school, and we older folks, you know what I mean? We've been working a long time. We should be able to afford to pay a whole bunch of bills now. But her rent went from $850 to $1,800.
Yes,
got a new owner.
Jesus.
You know what happened? I thought they had to do like a 3 or 5% or something like that. Like what's up with from $850 to $1,800, man? Like what we doing? What we gonna do about this housing in South Florida? Because it's really getting to the point where
Elijah, what we gonna do?
Right.
How you live here?
It's the pandemic really opened, or should have opened, everyone's eyes at this issue, and we saw a lot. We saw a lot last year. I don't even know how to begin to quantify this issue because we saw people get thrown out in the street in the middle of a pandemic. In the middle of the eviction moratorium too, we saw them still throwing people out in the street, even though they weren't supposed to. And this is not a new issue. This is something that's been going on for a long time, and people have been affected by the lack of affordable housing and the high cost of housing, which continues to be an issue. And this issue is very important to me, and it's personal because I grew up, and I know you guys heard my story about me growing up being chronically homeless, and we had to sleep in a car sometimes and bathe at the beach and go in the storage facility and live there sometime. And I had to go to school every day and pretend like nothing was going on and just get my education. And no child should be in that situation. And we should not see all of this homelessness. And people don't understand that we're all a paycheck or 2 or 3 away from homelessness. That could happen to anybody. And the market collapse again like 2008 at any time. And then we're all in trouble again. And the problem we see is that the big banks get away with murder, literally. They get away with, selling people a dream that they can't keep, or selling them a promise that they can't keep. And the government does the same thing. And what we see a government that works for landlords. We see a government that works for all of these big banks, but not one that works for tenants. And so my issue is that we don't have a tenant's bill of rights in Florida. We don't have rights for people in Florida, for the renter. We don't have rights for people. And so what I want to do in Tallahassee, part of 2 things I want to do is we need to work on a tenant's bill of rights. I don't expect that to pass with Republicans in control, but we need to work on something at least, when in times of national and state emergencies, we put an eviction moratorium in place. We do something to get money to people who need the money, in this case, landlords who may need the money because not everybody is a wealthy landlord. Some people, they rent out and stuff like that. So how do we get resources to them so that they don't throw people out on the street? How do we force them not to do that? And the other thing is we got to get funding for affordable housing. We got to protect the Sandusky Trust Fund that Republicans are trying to raid. We got to find the money. And part of my plan is I want to see 500,000 affordable housing units built across the state, with 100,000 of those here in Broward County, which a lot of that would be in my district. And we could get the funding to do that. But we also need to support the public housing that we already have. We have a lot of public housing and assistance that are run down. They haven't been fixed since the 90s. I mean, the green apartments off of 15th Avenue in Broward, my mom grew up in those. And she told me they look the same way they look, they inside, outside, from when she was a child. And, that goes to show that they're not prioritizing, people who need public housing. And so one of my priorities is modernizing that housing, getting the funding to build it, to rebuild better public housing for people, and also to, get the funding I want to work with HUD to get that funding, and I'll be working with our member of Congress. I'll be working with the state. I'll be working with whoever I need to get the HUD funding that we need to support these projects. But and we need some form of rent control. But the last thing I want to add on to that as well is that we need to also be supporting people who have a dream of owning a home. We know that not everybody can buy a home. That's not in reach for everyone, unfortunately, because the cost is so high. And there are a lot of first-time home buyers and young people who want to own a home. And part of what we need to do is have more grants and loans, especially forgivable ones that people can get to own a home. Because the real truth is that's how wealth is built, housing and other aspects like that. And those types of things, that's how wealth is being built. That's how generational wealth is built. And that's a lot of white people have that. And it's not really a black-white issue, but the truth is redlining and racism has historically impacted our community and continues to do so with housing. It has not gone away. Everyone treats this as an issue that went away. Redlining is very well much alive, along with gentrification and other issues. So what we need to do is we need to ensure that we can help people who want to own a home, get a home. Part of what I want to do as a state representative is be that channel for my constituents who need access to the resources, access to grants, loans, other services, capital to be able to own their home, and try to find a way to put some type of controls on these costs. Because, I see houses that are smaller than mine, no better, and they're on the market for $5 million. And to me, that is just a ripoff.
Yeah. And the thing you said about generational wealth, that is so true. Because we don't want our parents to die in order for us to have a house, right? But I'm just gonna say, I'm a little older. My friends, their parents are older, and some of them are starting to pass away and stuff like that. And my friends who the ones who inherited the house and don't have no mortgage, they living good, right? Like I'm just like, you ain't got no mortgage payments. Like how mad is that? So that's when I tell you, like that makes such a huge difference in a person's life and what they can do that they don't have a mortgage payment. It's amazing, right? So you can kind of take your time to get the job that you want, right? Because all you're worrying about is taxes and insurance, right? It just gives you so much relief that you don't have to worry about that. So that whole idea of building some level of generational wealth and that being that and a home being that thing is so real, because I'm actually seeing it happen, and it makes such a huge difference. Because if I didn't have a mortgage, bro, like I would be good right now if I didn't have to pay my mortgage. The other thing you were saying about the affordable housing, what you said about a lot of those apartments that were considered projects at the time, that they're not renovating them, that is so true. And I grew up in Miami, and when they started renovating them in Miami, the neighborhood changed, right? It's like I'm like, but I think y'all could have been did that, right?
There's another part to that. Right? The other part is a lot of people that complain. Like I had a politician tell me a little bit ago that we don't want to put resources in the Black community because they don't keep up, blah, blah, blah. And so I felt very offended by that, and I told them how offended I was by that. And they were asking, why don't y'all keep up with it? And I said, well, people don't keep up with something, if there's nothing being given in that relationship. So part of that is people want to, people respect their community. I'm trying to see a way to say this. People respect.
So you can think that through for a minute, and I'm gonna say one thing to that. Like that whole idea of them people not keeping up the neighborhood, to me, that's absolute like trash and it's dishonest and it's not true, right? So, because again, I grew up in Miami, and there's this area where I used to have an office on 82nd Street and like between Miami Avenue and Northeast 2nd, right? I know people that had businesses in this. There's two strip malls where I know people that had businesses. When I tell you, even though they had businesses there that had been profitable for years, they could not give the bank, they could not get the bank to give them any money to renovate those places or to do build outs. They couldn't get it, even though they had the money, they've had the business for a long time. They were stable in the community, and they could not get the banks to give them money to develop or make their space look better. So like Black people not trying to make the stuff better, they can't get the funding to do it. You're going to sink all of your money into something and then have, so that's one thing. Right, but now the neighborhood is changing. Right, they got they have this place called the Citadel, and now that same strip mall that they would not give these people just a little bit of money to renovate. It's like all the money, you could tell that they've dumped millions of dollars into that renovation. So to say that, we're not going to put money into a Black community because Black people don't take care of stuff, they don't even you're not even in a position where they would maintain it. Right, you can't even get money to maintain it. So it's not it's just so disingenuous. You ain't do nothing to it. 30 years. It's gonna get run down. There's no more wear and tear. And if it's done in 30 years, it's gonna look like trash. So
how do they expect?
So disingenuous. So disingenuous.
And how do they expect us to keep up with it if they don't? Like, if they don't invest the resources in our community, what do we have to show for it? They're like, there's no wealth. There's no wealth because there's no money being invested in that neighborhood to fix it. There's no sidewalks. There's nothing. When people go there, we want to make sure, because mental health is a whole nother issue, and that's tied into how communities are, the wealth of a community. And so we want people, when people are living in an area that's down, there's trash everywhere, there's not any wealth there, it doesn't seem like there's any value there, people's mental health kind of go down. They don't respect the community. They throw trash. They do it because it's already there.
So I'm gonna say, I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I'm gonna say something that whole like they throw trash on the floor, right? So I remember, again, I grew up in Miami. I remember like I learned about littering early. So I would not litter. You couldn't pay me to litter. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. So I remember I'm walking home because we used to walk, I ain't had no car. My mama don't drive. I literally I was like near 40th Street or something like that, and I was going to 62nd Street, and I did not want to litter. I had to walk home and put the stuff in the garbage in my house because there were no garbage cans on any of the sidewalk or any of the streets to put the garbage in. So this whole idea of like black people throwing stuff on the ground, if go into those neighborhoods, you ain't gonna see no trash can, like on the corner, like every 2 or 4 blocks. It's not the case. So that again, that's another bunch of garbage that they're saying that, oh, black people, they throwing the trash on the floor. That's because y'all ain't got no trash cans nowhere for nobody.
Well, but it's set up by design, though. Everything is done by design.
It's by design.
They design it that way. They design it that way. And that's why people like you who are running for office need to make sure that those things are highlighted. A lot of people run for office and they talk about, oh, yeah, we're going to try to do things for the community or whatever. But, it's important that a candidate talks about what they see and what they know rather than what you're going to do. Because, when you talk, you say it and then you come with a plan of action. Right. This is, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then this is what I see because of this. And also when you're talking, if you notice, Sandra, when you're talking and he says something, he's also talking about other things that connects with it. He's like mental health. That's why. And, it's important that a candidate and an elected official understands that. And that's a great foundation, Elijah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've told them, because people would say that about our community. And I said, all of these
get them garbage cans over there.
Yeah, I mean,
every other block because there ain't no garbage cans there, and there's no pickup. So stop it. There
are white areas that do the same thing, and I tell them all the time. I say, well, if you see a problem in a neighborhood and you're an elected official, the first thing you do is you pick up the phone and say, how about we go and we do a neighborhood cleaning for the community instead of respecting the community? Let's go them and show them that the elected representatives of this community, the city commissioners, all of these people, we see the issue there. Then we go there and we do something, and then when we're doing that, other people will look and say, well, I want to go join in. I want to go do this. And they get involved because the problem is there's no civic engagement because nobody come to you. They come to get your vote. They disappear. 4 years, 2 years, whatever, and they don't come back. And the issue is, I mean, I drive around the district a lot and I see things in the community and I'm thinking, well, maybe one day I'll go knock on someone's door and tell them, hey, can I cut your grass for free? Hey, can I fix your gate for free? Hey, I got a little money. Let me go help you, do with your gardening and make your house look well. A lot of people like that type of stuff. If someone come and do that for them, that makes them feel better. They like that somebody in the community cares. I'm not an elected official, but I still sometimes go do that. Sometimes I'm driving around and I'm like, I know there's an elderly lady in this home. She might need help. She might need somebody to do something. Let me just go. And, I knocked on the door and I said, hey, can I cut your grass? She said, I don't have any money. I said, that's fine. I don't want any money. She said, what do you want? I said, I want nothing. I just want to cut your grass and go. And she was really shook. She said, nobody ever came to my house and asked to do anything for me for free. Like, why? And she's like, what? Like, are you running for something? I wasn't at that time. This was between the race, between August and January. And I'm like, I'm not running for anything. She didn't even know my name. And I cut her grass for her for free. And, she felt so great at the end. She came out with a plate of food and all of this stuff. She said, you can come in, you can come back anytime and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I just wanted to cut your grass. And I appreciate that. And people like stuff like that because a lot of people, they just need somebody there for them. They just need somebody to listen to them. They just need somebody to come and help them with one thing. They might be working extra jobs. They might have another thing they need to do. They have to paint the house, so they can't cut the grass. And so those little things matter. And as an elected official, those are the little things we should be looking at and saying, okay, I'm not just going to go to Tallahassee and vote, because a lot of people are like that. They go, they vote, they come home. They vote, they go home. Committee, go home, do nothing. And that can't be just what the job is. Like, a representative got to get out there in the community and say, I'm your servant. What do you need me to do to make your life better? And
especially in a district like yours, where it's this all these type of needs. Like, while you're talking, I'm like, yeah, they could definitely do like community service projects all the time. Because there's some places I'm like, well, can you get some paint, please? You know what I mean? And that could be a thing that you could connect with Home Depot or something like that. Get them to donate some paint. And you know, when they have those like the gallons of paint that they can only sell for $10 because they messed it up. You know, somebody could like buy that and like paint a house and get a few, you know, make it like a community service project and get a whole bunch of people. So there's a lot of things that can be done, but you really just have to have somebody who's like service oriented and service minded like that to get it done, you know. And I believe you're the person that's going to be able to do some of those things, and you'll be willing. I'm definitely willing to do that. But you did say one thing that word comes up often, and I think a lot of the listeners may not fully understand what it is. You talked about the Sandusky Trust Fund. Can you tell us what that is? Tell the audience what that is.
Yes, so the Sandusky Trust Fund is an affordable housing trust fund. That's money set aside for affordable housing in our state that Republicans have been attempting to siphon money away for other projects. And I know they did that last session. So we have a problem in the state where we, the taxpayers, have money set aside by law for specific needs like the Sandusky Trust Fund provides. They try to take that money away from that. And that's part of the reason why we have a lot of these problems, because even when we get funding somewhere into a program, that funding is not even safe then still, because they can take that away and do whatever they want with it. Like they do with money for schools, they take and give it to private schools. So in this instance, you know, that's a program that really helps. That's funding that can help build housing. That's funding that can go to help people. And that's a lot of money. And they have been robbing it blind, or attempting to rob it blind, for a while. And I think they'll try to do the same thing this session and move that money. But we got to be real steadfast, because they get the way they do things is they hope nobody's watching. They quickly move it through committee. They go and they do things in the process. And, you know, it's important that we don't allow them to do such a thing. So that's part of what I want to do, is address that issue and make sure that they can't do that.
And I know you ain't scared to put nobody on blast.
You sure ain't.
So not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
He has no fear. He's like, bring it.
Yeah,
bring it in a professional manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you were talking about they have these funds set aside for money, and then they do something else with it. And that's that lotto thing that Narnique was talking about earlier on. I mean, I'm older. I went to school when they con people into getting the lotto, you know, allowing the lotto to happen in Florida in order to fund education. And from the time I've been in school, schools have far less resources, services, programs than they had when I was in school, right? And they adding days to the lotto. They do it in the morning and then the night, and it's all kind of scratch offs. It's like a whole section of the stores that got them and all of this stuff. So the lotto seem to be doing fine, but I don't see that money getting into the educational system. So
where's the money
is there anything that you can do, or what? So how can that money get back to the schools?
I think
lotto seem to be doing well.
I think we need to audit that money to see where it's going, because like I said, I mean, I know these lotto tickets they buying and buying and buying. And I'm like, that's a lot. They're making lots of revenue. And I'm like, I don't see that money going into schools. Like, I mean, especially I look at the Title I schools, and I'm like, where's the funding for this? I look at the FEFP, the education funding up in Tallahassee when the budget comes out, and I'm like, they're moving funding. They're taking funding away from programs, and I'm like, where's the lotto money? So I think it's all a scheme. I think they just say that to get people to buy it, and that's another example of the state putting their fingers on the scale for a large corporation and not working.
I need somebody to make that one of the issues they're gonna deal with when they go to Tallahassee. I'm just saying, right? And there's another thing they're trying to do right now is like they're trying to bring casinos into South Florida, and they're pimping that whole like, oh, it's gonna go to the school, but it may go to the school. I'm like, listen, when they say may, it ain't going, okay? So like that's another thing. So there's this whole idea of trying to bring all this gambling to South Florida, and they're trying to use the education as the reason to allow it to happen. And I hope, you know, whenever that comes up, that you guys are like, no, we're not falling for this trick no more. Get that lotto money in the school first, and then we'll start thinking about some casinos, because that'll make no sense. The other thing, and I'm not sure what your time is today, healthcare. There's a whole bunch of money that Florida keeps refusing. You know, I believe you're one of the supporters for Medicare for all and all of this type of stuff. They managed to get people vaccinated, and I'm sure a lot of people like that. Just go and they're gonna give you the vaccine, and I don't gotta give them no money. Like, imagine if all healthcare was like that. If you're sick and not feeling good, you just go to the doctor and you ain't gotta give them no money. So let's talk about healthcare and what you think you can do. What kind of movements can happen in the year that you're going to be in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important question. And that's a very important issue that, I mean, you think after the pandemic, everyone's head will be going crazy and thinking like, oh my God, healthcare. We should do something about this so we don't, experience what we just experienced in 2020, where, people didn't have healthcare at the beginning of everything. You couldn't even get a COVID test at the very beginning without paying. And then they changed that with the federal government putting dollars in. But the fact that a lot of these things are even issues. I mean, we live in the richest country in the history of the world. And we have other countries nowhere near as rich as ours providing healthcare to every single person in that country in a cost-effective way without a dime having to be spent by anybody. Meaning when they go to the doctor, they don't have to sit there and enter all that information. When the person comes in with the little roller with the computer, I need your insurance card, your information. They don't have to go through all that. They go to the doctor, they go home, they don't get a bill in the mail, they don't get hit with the cost to get their prescriptions, none of that. Because those countries understand that in order to have a healthy economy, to have a healthy population, we need to provide healthcare to everybody and have a healthy people. And so the best way to do that is, I believe, is to have nationally single payer healthcare, a Medicare for all type system preferably, which will provide healthcare to everybody in a cost effective way. It's so affordable. I mean, I know there's been the fact that we haven't figured this out in this country, and we used to have similar systems like this. I mean, we already have Medicare. We already have the program. All we have to do is expand it to everybody, move it away from just 65 down to 55, down to 45, down to everybody, so that everyone can have Medicare. Because the truth is we have people going to the doctor and then getting stuck with bills for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 to get a test. This happened in the past.
So I have a family member that has a issue with their iron, right, in their body, and then the medication that they need is $1,093 a month, right? So $1,093 a month now.
It's insane.
And it's only one person that makes so this is the thing. So depending on the insurance you have, some lets you get the generic, some lets you get the name brand, right? So in order for him, the name brand has like a discount card that would make it less. But his insurance is like, no, you have to only give the generic. The generic is only in one place, and the generic is still $1,093 a month. And then but then they try to so then you got to go back to the insurance and say, no, they have to have the name brand for these reasons, and then the insurance company denies it. In the meantime, the person's getting sicker because this is some life-saving medication. And I'm like, how is this okay? Like, how is this okay in America? Like, how is this okay?
It's a caste system. It's a system that says rich people that can afford this fancy wine can get this fancy wine. All the poor people, you get the well wine. That's basically
nothing. He's getting nothing. He's actually getting nothing. They're like, yo, just try to hang in there and just don't die by the time while we get through this process. So it's not even like you're getting cheap wine. You're getting nothing.
Right. And
there's no alternative to the medication.
And the insurance companies are middlemen. They get in the way. And so what we need to do is what a single payer healthcare system does is eliminate the insurance programs. It gets rid of the middleman. There's none of that. We have the government. They pay the bill and a doctor provides the service. There's no middleman. There's no, let me ask my insurance company, no more of that with Medicare for all. You go to the doctor, you get the care, and you don't have to sit there and wait for somebody in the office for 10 days to come up and say, yeah, you can get this. No, you can't get this, but you're paying that money for them to deny. And so I know that's a national thing that we want to do, and it's very cost effective and great. And on a state level, one of the most important issues is something I can actually tackle is suspending Medicaid. Because that's very important that there are poor people, there are women, there are children, there are pregnant women that rely on Medicaid and WIC services. And we have not suspended Medicaid in the state. Our Republican government has refused. And as I know and understand that there is a federal bill right now that the Biden administration, which I hope passes because I need it, they passed this bill. It will go around the governors and it will allow everyone that is within that Medicaid gap. There are hundreds of thousands of people, I think 400 or 400 to 500,000, maybe more in Florida alone, who don't qualify for Medicaid because they make maybe a tad bit more or are over the age out. So what the legislation will do is it will say everyone in that Medicaid gap will qualify for Obamacare at a reduced cost or at no cost. And most of them will have to probably pay nothing and they get healthcare. So I currently have no healthcare, no insurance. So I'm uninsured right now. If something's happening, I'm stuck with a bill. But if that bill passes as of January 1st, I will be able to go to the doctor and I have healthcare. And so what I want to do is in Florida, there's two pieces of legislation I want to pass. First, to end this gap, we need to expand Medicaid by increasing the age. Currently, if you're 21, you can no longer get Medicaid to qualify anymore. It doesn't matter what your income is, you're out unless you have a disability. So what I want to do is raise that age from 21 to 26 like it is with Obamacare so that it should match. So that would expand Medicaid to probably 200,000 people right there, young people who go to college, they, like I did, and, they wake up on their birthday the next day, oh, I can't go to the doctor, I don't have insurance anymore. So it increases that age to 26. And then the second bill is we take kid care and we combine it with our Medicaid program and do like Massachusetts does with Mass Health, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And provides universal health care for a lot of people. And that's what we should do because no child should be uninsured. Even if we can't agree on everyone getting healthcare, like the most humane thing is to say no child should be going uninsured. Like our children should have the best quality healthcare, and part of doing that is raising that age with Medicaid from 21 to 26, so everyone can.
Because they did that with parent, like if you have private insurance, like if your parents, they can keep the children on their insurance till they're 26. Right. So you would think if they did that, they should do that for everybody else who don't have parents that happen to have insurance, right? And then with the disability, that's a whole nother thing. Because I have a daughter that's on the spectrum, and she can't get disability benefits because they say I make too much. I'm like, but the girl's still disabled. Like, that ain't changing though. You know what I mean? And there's certain things that some of the providers, they prefer to have like Medicaid as opposed to the private insurance, because I'm sure the private insurance negotiated some rate that was so ridiculous. They're like, it's not even worth us taking your private insurance because they ain't trying to pay us. But she didn't get it because I have a job. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I can't not work because and so she's in this weird spot where there's more services. Had I been, I don't know, I guess poorer, I don't know, I could have, she could have gotten more services, which is unfair because she's the person with a disability and the disability still exists. And that should not matter how much I make, because I'm in that weird spot. I don't make a whole bunch of money, but then, I don't, I'm not considered poor, and so the child with disability ends up. So that's a whole other thing that they really do need to figure out. Just adjust these poverty levels, right? Like whatever that is, because whatever that poverty rate that they have for Florida is like you can't afford to live in Florida with those numbers. You are like part of the hidden homeless. If those are the numbers that you have, you're literally living in a house with like multiple families, and that's how y'all paying that rate.
We got to change those numbers. That income, and instead of having it mandatory, have some wiggle room to say, okay, maybe you make 5, 10, or 500 more, we still will let you qualify instead of having it set in stone. And part of that issue is it's not just with healthcare they do it with food stamps, they do it with everything. They do that with Section 8. You make $2 more and then you're out of the program. And I think that's kind of not sustainable. And with health insurance, they shouldn't be allowing them the insurance companies to deny claims like that. I don't think they should be even allowed to deny claims like that. And I've went uninsured for a while, and when I go there and I say I need a medicine or something, I got to go find the money for it. I had one doctor who said, you know what, I'm sick of this. I'm going to pay for your medicine. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I was real happy to hear that. But not everyone is in that situation where they have a doctor that is going to pay for them in that situation. But it's unfortunate it's gotten that bad.
Yeah. And then the stuff with the pharmaceuticals and the doctors had to change a little bit too, right? Because some of those doctors was they used to give them samples, and then some of they started abusing that whole thing. So then they had to make some adjustments on like what the pharmaceutical companies can do with the doctors and stuff like that.
Gets away with murder, and what we need to do. Oh, that's the other two priorities I have. I can't introduce all of these bills, but I really wish I could introduce 100.
That's why to co-sponsor them with you.
Right. I'm working on that because pharma gets away with murder. They get away with price gouging, which they need to be criminally charged and go with jail for that. But I think a bipartisan legislation, I'm surprised no Democrat is following up on this. And the governor wants to do this, and Republicans killed it. And a lot of Democrats is like, I don't know about this. And this is a good bipartisan issue. This is something I really want to see is to allow for not just drug price negotiation for seeing drugs and like blood thinners and stuff like that, and make sure those are guaranteed and negotiated for a lower price, but to allow for the importation of cheaper prescription drugs from foreign countries, which the governor actually was open to. And I was like, please, Democrats, fight for this, go crazy and fight for this.
Get them pills from Canada.
Because Rick Scott would not have ever even considered that. So the fact that this crazy guy is considering it, I think we need to have a conversation and say, let's work on a bill, and I will make this a priority to pass, to get this where, okay, well, these drugs that they have here that cost so much money for people, okay, we're going to go around Big Pharma. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Canada. We're going to get drugs that cost $5, $10. We're going to allow them to import those to Florida. So now those companies are going to be forced to compete and lower their costs. Right now, they don't have to because everyone has the price jacked up. But if a Canadian company comes in and say, yeah, here's all of these $5, medicines, then now some of these other places are going to say, well, we're charging $400 for this. Let's drop the bars down to like 20 or 15 to kind of compete. And so that's something that's good, and that helps us, that helps people get health care. And I want to see that pass.
Yeah, because I teach in a criminal justice program, and then when we start talking about like narcotics and drugs, I tell my students, I'm like, the pharmaceutical companies are the new drug dealers. You know what I mean? Like, and that is for real. I'm like, they are straight up the new drug dealers. They are the corner boys.
They're the legal drug dealers. They're the legal drug dealers.
They are the new drug dealers. Period. Like, period. They started with the free samples at the doctor's office, got everybody hooked, and then now people out here in these streets trying to get these drugs. I'm like, come on, it's for real. And then the stuff that people need you can't get, but they'll give you all of this stuff that'll have you hooked and committing crimes and all kind of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely one of the things. Healthcare is a big issue. We talked about housing. We talked about the environmental stuff that nobody, people don't realize how important it is. And you had mentioned fracking. And again, that's probably another one of those things that a lot of people don't know. My house shake like every day around 11 o'clock. So I think there's some fracking going on around here too. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's a very bad practice of what they're doing, hydraulic fracturing, and that's them injecting, and what they tried to do in Miami to inject waste frack water under our freshwater aquifer in Miami. Good thing that we stopped that, but they will not go away, and they're trying to do that in the Everglades. So if you live out west, you probably hear them doing it. And I think they're still doing it. There's a fight over that. They do that everywhere now, and it's really bad for the environment. It's really bad for our environment, for our air, the air that we breathe, for our water, for the wildlife. And so I think that should be banned, and we should not allow any form of it anywhere. Not in federal waters, not in state waters, not in international waters, not inland. Nowhere. We should end fracturing, hydraulic fracturing, offshore oil drilling, any forms of drilling for oil. We need to ban, and because we don't want that practice here in our state. And in addition to that, it really threatens our drinking water supply, because when they get that waste fracking water, they got to put it somewhere. Where do they put it? They want to put it in a Black community. They want to go to a low-income community. They want to go maybe to a low-income white community and say, we're going to dump it there because y'all have no value. We're going to inject it under our freshwater aquifer. And let's just hope that nothing happens, and then now all of that wastewater is in our freshwater aquifer, in Biscayne aquifer, where we get all of our drinking water from for millions of people in South Florida. And now we have no clean drinking water at all because we let them do this. And so some of these things are common sense, and I think that's an issue that the governor surprisingly, the environmental side of things, he's been more open to things. So that's good. And I'm thinking, while we have a governor, a Republican one, that cares about this, we should maximize what we can do on Everglades restoration, maximize what we can do on fracking and all of these other issues with water, maximize what we can get out of him, because the next governor, if it's a Republican, may not give a damn about this issue, may not care, may call it a Chinese hoax. And so he hasn't done that. And so yet, I don't know where he's going to be in 2024 when he's running for president. But right now, we could get whatever we could get out of him.
Okay, I agree. All right, co-host, what are you going to talk about now?
Listen, I feel like Elijah has covered so much. If nobody didn't think that you was the candidate, they'd think it now, because I'm telling you, we've had conversations with candidates before, and I have to tell you, you're right on the money.
Thank you.
Right on the money, and I wish we could be where we do debates on our show. We're still mulling that over. But I think it's important that there should be a debate that people can clearly see who is the best prepared candidate. I think the only last question I do have for you is that I'm gonna bring this up because it's always something people bring up is about your age, right? Everybody wants to say, well, you're too young, you don't have enough experience and all that other stuff, or whatever. What do you say to your naysayers? What do you say to those who, have criticism of your age? And tell us why it's important for us to keep an eye on up and coming young candidates who really want to make a difference in their community.
Right. So, what I tell people is I tell them when they're making decisions on who to vote for and when they're evaluating candidates, and I do this all the time, is to take the bias out of their mind, put on a different lens of putting everyone on the same level playing field and evaluate people. Because I've seen candidates who are 3 times my age, like I seen the other day at the Democrats forum, and they couldn't even say a single sentence about very basic issues. And here I am spouting off, and they're just sitting there. Yeah, climate change real. I want to look at the environment. And so I tell people to look at the entirety of the candidate, not just their age, not just their background, not just their skin color, because sometimes we know not all skin folk are kinfolk. I mean, some people are way out there on the other side somewhere, on the other side of the river. And so I tell people all the time to look at the candidate and not just age, because I do think there is a lot of wisdom that comes with age, but I think what's important is to look at experience too, and life experience, because I always say that different people have different experiences at different points in their lives. And age, while it's just a number, it cannot completely sum up the entirety of someone's life experience. Now, of course, it just means age that you had more opportunities to have experience. You might have seen more life things happen in your life, but it doesn't mean that every single experience will happen. And I have people, who tell me all the time, they might be 55 and say, you don't know anything. And then they grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth. They didn't sleep out on the street. They didn't sleep in a car. They don't know anything about my story. They just think I'm young. And so I tell people to read my story, learn about who I am, because I can't be summed up by my age. I can't be summed up by one single thing. I'm an entire person. And as an entire person, I have feelings, I have experiences in my life. I have things that, I think will be important in Tallahassee, because people don't understand that in Tallahassee, there are a lot of people who don't share our experiences. There are millionaires. There are people who don't look like us, who don't eat like us, who don't live like us, who don't love like us. They don't understand our lives and our experiences. And so I think it's, if I'm sent to Tallahassee, I will bring such a new or fresher and different perspective that is so overdue in Tallahassee. I think we need someone to go up there and shake the cage a little bit and get people, put some fire under people's feet and get them, excited about these issues, or at least talking about these issues. And so I hear people all the time say, well, you're young and I'm not going to vote for you for that reason, and you're this and you're that. And, I think it's a very, very narrow-minded and basic way of looking at things. It's very like 22, no. And it is the same thing as someone saying black, no. It's not exactly the same thing. I don't want to compare it to, but, it's similar. No, I'm not going to vote for you this. I have people say, you're gay. I'm not going to vote for you for that. I've had people say, don't talk about your sexuality because you might lose votes in the black community. People say things like this. And I say people got to look at the entirety and look at who is best prepared to represent them in the legislature. All of these other things, they're important to know. They're important to evaluate, to see, and to consider. But who is best prepared to represent them in the legislature? Who will secure the resources? Who has the story, the knowledge, the information, and the ability to work with people who come from communities that look nothing like ours? And it's important to go up there and see that there are a lot of other people who grew up in different places. I have conversations with Republicans sometimes, and they turn out really well. Like, we'll start out screaming at each other, you're a socialist, you're this, you're racist. And then we'll sit down and we'll see how much we have in common. We'll see how much, I hear their life story and I'm like, okay, I don't agree, but I see where you're coming from. I understand what you're talking about. Let's see if we can work together on something. And so I've had people tell me, you're just a kid. I don't want to vote for you. And I'm like, and some people, I'm never going to change their mind about them until I'm 40. And they're like, sure. But I think for a lot of those people, a lot of them never would have voted for me either way. Some people will say that and use that, I feel like, as an excuse at this point. I've ran 3 times. That should even be a thing at this time. But I think people have to look at the entirety of the sum of a candidate and sum everything up and see who is best prepared to represent me, my values, my issues, my community, and what I care about. In this case, I know that I'm the best person because I come from this district is so diverse. You have low income areas, you have Black people, you have white people, you have gay people, you have straight people, and I come from a background where I'm Black, I'm gay, I'm low income. I understand these issues. I see these issues happening in my community. And I come from an intersection, especially a district like this, which the population is growing, it's becoming younger, it's becoming a lot more LGBT. I mean, we're going to see that this year with the new district. And so I feel like it's a perfect opportunity, a perfect time for something new, for something different to represent our district, not the same old, not the same family name, not the same things happening, the recycling of politicians, the recycling of families, the recycling of names back onto the ballot every 10 years. I think it's time for that to be over.
Yeah, because I was gonna say you have somebody in your race that has a lot of name recognition. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's all they need. You know, that's all they need. And I know that name from, you know, it's been in the community. It's a staple in the community for a very long time. So how do you deal with that? You know, part of it is like you got to know what you're talking about, but people need to know that you're an option and that you know what you're talking about, and not necessarily fall into the name recognition cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of name recognition too. I mean, I go to people and they're like, yeah, I voted for you 2 times. I voted for you in 2020. I'm gonna vote for you this year. I'm gonna vote for you next year. I had one guy who said, I ain't voting for nobody else but you in any election. That's it. Okay. I will leave the ballot blank. I'm like, hey, you do what you got to do. So, I mean, I know there's like the candidates in my race. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to try to keep my tongue a little clear. I've met all 3 of my candidates. I met Rod, who I've known for a long time. Mr. Eglish, and I personally have nothing against him myself. I have a lot to say about his campaign. Mr. Campbell, the same thing. And I think, politics don't always have to be nasty. Sometimes we can listen to each other, share our ideas. But unfortunately, in this game, it gets dirty and it gets messy. And there are people, we have a candidate in this race who is running on his name. He's running on his parents' name. And I think there's so much that can be said about our district that don't have to be, I have this name. I am from this family. I'm from this background. Vote for me because of this. We need ideas from somebody who understands these issues, because, I can't walk anywhere and just say, oh yeah, vote for me because my dad was this and my father was this. And then we have another candidate in the race who is running, who was clearly put in a race, who don't understand the issues the way I do, and who cannot get the job done. I'm gonna be real honest. I mean, I wanted to hold my tongue and not because I want to keep the race clean. But honestly, there are people in this race who cannot do the job. They're put in the race for a specific reason. They're put in the race to whatever the reason is. And I don't want to talk about them and trash them. But we need people who can go to Tallahassee and do the job. Because before anything, before titles, and I want to be caught representing in this, we got hundreds of thousands of people in our district who are counting on us to deliver for them.
Is there morgue in your district?
Say it again?
Is that morgue in your district?
It is.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that one?
It's right across from my neighborhood. Right.
Well, what are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, I've been reading about it. I hear about it. I know about it. I've been kind of quiet on it because I wanted to learn more. So a lot of people are like, why are you talking about this? And, I wanted to learn more because I like to do my homework before I make any decision about anything. And so I still think there's more homework I need to do. But as it stands now, I do not support it in our community. I've never actually supported it there. But before I said anything, I wanted to look back and make sure that it was, not something that added any value. It turns out it actually isn't anything that adds any value to the community. So I don't support it. I don't think it should be where it is. And I think they need to reevaluate where they're going to place things and maybe put it out in Davie, put it out somewhere else. I don't want it in my backyard.
Those people said they need a hospital. They said we need no, for real. They're like, we need a hospital or urgent care. They're like, they got to drive 25, 30 minutes for the nearest hospital. And that's without traffic. That ain't got no car.
And that's in my platform, because I've been talking about this, why I have to go out to Broward General, and they just closed Plantation General.
Some place called Holy Cross or something like that. That's some other name they threw out there that's real far that they got to go to. So.
And they just closed Plantation General Hospital, a hospital in the center of the Black community, the Central Broward Black community. They closed, and they're going to close the other one by the Turnpike. They're going to close these hospitals, and that's been a war on hospitals, and that has an effect on our community. So, actually a bill that I want to introduce in the future, and I'll have to do all of these bills within a 8-year period because there's so many of them, and I know I can't get them all in 1 year. But this bill is to actually invest money into community health clinics. So not everything needs the hospital. Some things, I scraped my leg or I have an infection.
A good urgent care. I got I live out west. It's probably like an urgent care like every 10 blocks. So now I don't even know if it's a whole 10 blocks. But I got all kind of options. You know what I mean? I got Baptist, I got Memorial, I got Care Spot. There's another one that so I could go and then I live like walking distance from an actual major hospital. So and I'm like, well, I got all of this, and these other people said they got to drive 25 minutes to get to the closest of anything. So that is that disparity and disconnect that happens.
And then they get to
people in Broward. That should not be the case. I shouldn't have all these options, and the people ain't got none. You know.
And then they get to the ER, and then they have to wait 4 hours. And when
we don't wait. I'll be back in my house in the bed in 4 hours. Like that's crazy.
And that's actually a big plan because there are a lot of federal dollars that are not being accepted by the state. And it's this same trend. There's money out there. There's resources. And it's not even that we need the federal dollars. We have the money in the state budget, but it all goes to the same old things. And it's unfortunate that is the case. But we can get the funding for community health clinics. And I want to see, and this is my plan eventually, to have a community health clinic in every single zip code that needs one. And this will help the rural community. And you think this Republicans will say, yes, I want this because this helps them more in their communities. A lot of them represent rural places where they truly don't have a hospital within 100 miles. Like if you need something, they gotta put you on a helicopter and fly you out.
Right. So and even like, so I had a major medical issue 10 years ago, right? And then and again, I got hospitals all over the place, and I go, and then one of my friends lives in another state, and she's like, yeah, I got to drive 2 hours for my treatment. I'm like, 2 hours? Like, to me, I never even realized that somebody would have to drive like 2 hours weekly to get a treatment, like life-saving treatment, when I'm like, I hop in the car, I go 10 minutes before my appointment starts, and then they start, and then like, no, it's 2 hours, and then like once it's over, it's like a whole thing, and they gotta sometimes some people have to stay overnight in that location so they can be close, so they can get up and and I just like it didn't even register that there really are places in the United States of all places where people have to travel 2-3 hours to get like life-saving health treatment. So yeah, you're right. The rural communities, they need to do better. Communities of color, lower income neighborhoods, they definitely need to do better. I shouldn't have 5 options when somebody got none, like it just that shouldn't be the case.
It is intentionally designed that way, and it's unfortunate.
So but thank you for all that. And then there was one other thing, because you made one point where you said, somebody said, oh, you might be a socialist or something like that, right? And so I was talking to my brother and he was talking about how, right in the beginning of the pandemic, they did the government did this thing called quantitative easing, right? Which a lot of people don't know about, is that they paid off a lot of the debt for big companies, right? They paid off the debt for big companies so those companies don't fail. But then, everybody always mad when folks are like, okay, well, just send us $1,000 a month. Maybe, a lot of people don't support that. Some people do. Hey, y'all want to give it to me, I'm going to take it. But it's always interesting, like when you're trying to do things that are for the people, mind you, the people that actually got folks elected, they're like, oh, no, that's like socialism. But we're doing quantitative easing for big companies. And I think he said they paid off like almost like $30 trillion in debt for these big companies. And the Build Back Better plan that the president was trying to push was only $3.9 or $3.6 trillion, and they all said no. But they agreed to $30 trillion for big companies that still got money that are operational, right? So like that whole socialist conversation, again, I think that part of that needs to be the Democrats need to do better with the messaging. They need to tell on what the Congress members were willing to do for rich folks and for big business and not willing to do for the people.
So I tell them all the time.
How do you do that messaging?
And I tell them all the time, because I've been called social, whatever, and I'll be honest, yeah, true, I am one. And I think it's so important that we understand that we already have socialism in this country. We have something called socialism for the rich. We give subsidies to large corporations. We give tax breaks to rich people and tax credits. We give all of this stuff to the rich people. We have billionaires in this country and large corporations. They pay effectively 0% in federal taxes, not a single dollar. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, all of these people, where I know we got they pay nothing in taxes. And to me, we subsidize them. We do the same thing socialists for corporations, where we allow these corporations not only to not pay any taxes, but we're forced as taxpayers to subsidize their workers through food stamps and everything, because they're padding their executives' pay they're lining their pockets and they're giving all of this money to their shareholders while paying starvation wages to their workers. So we got socialism for the rich already, and I think it's time for socialism for everybody. And so it's all about, because when we're living in a capitalist economy, we got to understand that we're living in a capitalist economy, and that a lot of these countries across the world have figured this out. And it's so unfortunate that our country hasn't figured out by now that we have had this 45-year war on working people. We have attacked unions. We have attacked the ability of people to collectively bargain. We have tapped all of these people's wages. And now we have a situation where people are getting poorer and poorer, while the top 1% is getting richer and richer. And all of the money is going to all of the new gains, all of the new income is going to the top 1% of this country. And so that is not a sustainable system. It will collapse eventually. And we have to be honest with it. The system that we're currently working in right now, the Pfizer system we're currently working in right now, is not sustainable. It cannot sustain itself. It cannot work for long. And so, a lot of people don't care. It's going to be left on to figure it out in the end. These are going to continue to get expensive, like housing, like education. We're going to still have the problems that we're having, healthcare, all of these things, because we have a system that works for rich people, that works for large corporations, that works for the super wealthy, that works for the well-connected. But everyone else is left out in a system where all of the new income is being concentrated in the hands of a few, which is not healthy. And history shows us it's not healthy. Every other country has figured this issue out, has figured out how important this issue is, and understands that we need to move away from this system.
Definitely. I definitely agree, because it's like you said, it's not sustainable. It's like you can't keep people putting people backs against the wall, right? And I ain't trying to say how that's gonna play out, but I just know that you can't, all that pressure. Yeah.
Right. I think it was MLK that said it was. We have
someone had to give.
Rich. You have socialism for the rich and rut capitalism for the poor.
Yeah.
And Dr. King was right. He was 100% following, and that's the quote that they won't use of Dr. King, because he was right with that.
Yeah.
Spot on.
They ain't like when he started talking about like poor people in general, they don't like those conversations. All right, thank you. I think I covered what I was gonna cover. I appreciate this conversation with you. All right, co-host, what's up?
I'm always learning anytime we speak to Elijah Child. I mean, I be going to school. I appreciate you. I do. I feel like people need to understand that, we have to make space for young adults who have the passion to support their community and wanted to represent their community. I'm no bashing older people, but I think that, in order for us to progress, we have to work together. And in order for that to happen, you have to make space and allow them to come in and add to an already great experience. So I feel like, we got to make space for the young ones. I mean, you have Elijah running, you have the young gentleman who's running for the school board. I'm very, very excited about that. And I think we need to support them. We really, truly need to support them and allow them the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to make real changes and sustainable changes, because at the end of the day, when we are gone, they still are here maintaining this world, this country. So they should, and I implore that they have a seat at the table. Young and old make great things together. So we're looking forward to great things, Elijah. Looking forward to.
I appreciate it. I think. We want our legislature to look like our state, and our state is becoming younger. It's becoming more diverse, and we can't afford a situation where the representation of the legislature doesn't reflect that, because these are real experiences we're talking about. And if we have a legislature that doesn't look like us, that doesn't understand our lifestyle, then that translates into policy. And I always tell people when I get there, I won't just see statistics. I won't just see dollars and numbers and zeros. I'm going to see human lives. When I'm making decisions, I'm going to see and I'm going to understand that every decision I make, every dollar that I advocate for, has an effect on some number of lives, life or death. And that's so important. And that's so important because we don't have that there, and we don't have anyone in those big, tall buildings that look like us, that understand our issues, including young people there. Then things get lost in translation, issues get lost. We don't have that representation, and in the end, we all lose out in the end. And that's kind of where we're at now with the situation. And I think it's time. I think it's time for this district to have something new and fresh.
That's right, and that disconnect is serious because again, I just was watching the race for some of the people that were in the district 20 race. League of Women Voters of Broward had something with them the other day, and one of the guys was talking about like, yeah, minimum wage in the state of Florida is $7, and well, we can't. And I was like, he don't even know what minimum wage is, and he's out here trying to get a federal position. So that disconnect is real. That's probably because he ain't worked for minimum wage in like, I don't know. I don't want to say never, but it's clearly been a long time. If he think it's $7, you know what I'm saying? So he ain't even up on what the law is in Florida. So yeah, and oftentimes people don't even realize, some of these candidates don't even realize that they've lost touch with like what the people who they're trying to represent is really living and what's going on. And I was like, I even know it ain't $7, sir, but you the one trying to get a federal position. You should know that. At least Google it on your phone before you start talking about it.
I was just surprised. I mean, it just takes me back to Dolphin Democrats. I mean, I don't want to slam any candidate, but I have to say, I was just so shocked. I mean, a lot of people tell me about my age and they're like, you're young. And then I just wish that whole forum could be sent to everyone's phone in every district so they can see how really what politics is about, should be about, and the disconnect. I mean, I'm not going to point out any names of any candidates, but I will say, you guys were there. You probably saw it.
We saw it. I saw it. I saw what you're talking about. I saw it. I was there.
You saw it. We are just as flabbergasted as you are.
And we invite them all to come talk to us so they can clear it up. We invite them all to come talk.
I encourage them to learn. I encourage them to learn from me. None of them are going to say, yeah, I learned from that 22-year-old because it seems kind of weird. Like, how do you learn from? But I encourage them to take notes and learn. And I'm here. I told them, I don't care who you are, you're my opponent or not. I'm invested in this community enough just to teach and help anyone who wins so that they know and understand these issues and they learn. Because when you don't know and you go up there, you get the wrong type of people telling you. And they'll come and tell you the wrong thing. And that's what we got going on.
And the predators are going to pick that up. And they're the ones that's really going to act like they're your friends, right? The predators are going to pick that up. And they're going to come there and have you doing all kinds of stuff that don't make no sense, For the people that you're there to represent. Yep. So.
Well, how can you be reached, Elijah? Please tell us where we can reach you so people can donate to your campaign. People can come and vote January 11th. How can you be reached?
So I'm gonna put my website in the private chat for you. But my website is ElijahManley.com. I encourage everyone to go there. We got voter resources on there. We have, how to track your ballot, how to return your ballot, how to request it, how to see where it is, and if it counts, check your voter status. If you need to update your address and registration, and also understand that if you want to register to vote, you need to do that by Monday the 13th, or you will not be able to vote in this race. And everyone of any party can vote in this race. You can find me on social media as well at Elijah Manley on Twitter, where I'm very active. Facebook, Real Elijah Manley, or my personal page is also available, and Instagram at Real Elijah Manley as well. You can check that out. I am also on TikTok. I'm still learning how to make videos. I watch so many of them. I still need to figure out how to make them. So I'm going. And you're going to see a lot of content showing, the life of a candidate, like the behind the scenes. So I'm going to start posting stuff like that so people see what I see when I wake up and what I experience. And they kind of get that behind the scenes feel as well. So you can find me on all of those channels and mediums. We're encouraging people when they get their ballot, fill it out and drop it in the mail immediately or the next day, because holidays, the mail runs slow. And we just saw last month how important every vote is and how the postal service can really determine an election. And we don't want that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and the vote by mail ballots are coming in. I got mine yesterday. I got mine in the mail yesterday, so they've already gone out. So if you requested a vote by mail ballot, just look for it. It should have got there yesterday. It's coming today, so those have been sent out too.
Yeah, and turn them in. I mean, if people have more questions too, feel free to hit me up anywhere. I'll respond. Or if you have any questions about any policy, anything, you want clarifications about things. And also understand, don't also believe everything you see out on the internet, nasty mail, negative stuff. Do the research, check out the candidates, check out their websites, check out their everyone's coming to shuffle me away. But
you're busy, it's all good.
Check out his website, check out all his information. We did see the form last night, and we have to say that Elijah Manley did come with.
It was on Tuesday. It was Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Sorry, Tuesday night.
Yes, right.
He did come with the info. The other candidates they were all right, but yeah.
I'm worried. I'm gonna be honest. I'm worried. That's all I can say is I'm worried.
It's the savagery for me, and I love it, child. I love all of it. All right. So next Monday, we are going to be talking to Elijah's opponent on the 13th.
I believe it's Derek Campbell on Monday.
Yes, Mr. Campbell's on Monday. So please join us at 5:30. In the meantime, go to ElijahManley.com. Go learn more. January 11th is the election day. We want you all to come out in full force. District 94. You want representation. You need representation. The legislation session starts in January. I think that day or the day after. And we need someone to represent District 94. We need someone who knows the issues.
And willing to learn about the ones that they don't know about instead of over there trying to make some stuff up.
That's right.
That's all we talking about.
Okay. There's a saying, I forget the exact terminology of the saying. They say one thing you cannot, what was it saying? It was, you cannot pretend, I think you guys know what it is. You cannot make up knowledge or something like that. I forgot. On top of my you cannot fake knowledge. You cannot fake.
It's true. Yeah, and some of these issues are like they're multi-layered. And they're multi-layered, not necessarily complicated. They just have layers to them, and so you have to know what you're talking about in order to explain them. Talking points is only going to get you but so far.
But so far.
It's only going to get you so far.
I tell you, you talk to them prior to them. Really let people see. Do they know what they're talking about? Do a test. Because, somebody I did an endorsement interview last year. And it was really condescending. They were taking like a test on me to see if I knew what I was saying. They were asking me, what is this? What is that? What is a budget? What is this? What is that? And I'm just like, I know all of this. You're asking me, and I gave them all the answers, and they looked crazy. And they never did that to the other candidate who was older. So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I want everyone to interview all these candidates to drill them and ask them, what is this? What is that? What's this definition? What's that definition? And I'm afraid. I'm just really afraid of what I'm gonna see.
We're gonna believe that the people gonna make the right choice. They're gonna make the right choice. And I'm glad this race don't have as many folks as the other ones. So
I was afraid we're gonna have some other resignations.
Oh Lord, I'm glad it's where it's at. I think a couple of them could have just said, you know what, let me just go ahead and stay home. But hey, we're not dream killers. We're not dream killers.
Well, we don't try to be. We don't try to be.
But yeah. So, all right.
All right. So thank you so much.
So guys, donate. He needs people to canvass. Are you still canvassing? You're still canvassing? So he needs volunteers. They're gonna have early voting on this one, or is it just the election day?
It's early voting from January 1st, New Year's Day, to January 9th. So I'm encouraging people to vote by mail or vote early. Don't let your vote get lost in translation. Don't let your vote not be counted. We don't want another situation like last month.
Don't do it last minute. Don't do it last minute. Yeah, because we might have had a different congressional rep, depending on if those last few votes were counted. We don't know, because I don't think no one knows what those numbers were, who those votes were for. But it's possible that the election could have changed, because it was like 12 or 18 votes that were at that issue, and the person won by 5. So that could have been a game changer. So try to send, if you're going to do vote by mail, send it out now. Early voting, as Elijah said, is January 1st through the 9th. And then the actual election day is on January 11th. That's your last opportunity to vote. That's your last opportunity to vote is January 11th. And whoever gets the top number of votes is the one that's going to Tallahassee, y'all, because there's no Republican in the race.
That's right. That's right.
Elijah, I have one more thing to ask of you. So if you know anybody that lives in the school district 4, for Broward County School District 4, we need a candidate. We need somebody to run against that school board member. So holler at your friends at Margate, Tamarack, Coral Springs, Parkland. We need somebody to run. I'm willing to canvass for them. I'm willing to help them raise money. We need a candidate in that on school board.
I mean, a good thing I don't have to sue to get that election created. The only reason why we're running in this election is because I had to fight the governor and force him to do it. So it's a good thing we don't have to sue to get that election scheduled. It's a whole nother thing, but I just.
Yeah, so we need that. No, but that one is for like that's the 4 years up. That's the August. That's for the primaries in August and the general election for the midterm. So that person has like 10 months to run. So if you know anybody that lives in that area that wants to run for
we don't believe in candidates not running unopposed.
That's right.
Candidates should not be running unopposed.
Right.
So tell them, drop a little nugget in their ear and tell them that they need to go ahead and get in that race.
I surely will.
Okay.
All right, everybody. We'll see you guys on Monday, and we'll pick it up again. Let us know what you guys think. We giving you the candidates. We're giving you them as they are authentic, right here in live color. And then they said that you can talk to them afterwards. So please join us. It's important that everybody knows who's running and what they're running for and how are they going to make sure that they help us. We want our lotto money, man. Elijah, don't forget.
That's enough. Yeah, do that one for me too. That school board. Do that for us. Do that for the children. You know what I'm saying?
Want the coins.
Do that for the children.
All right,
ElijahManley.com. Donate money and your time.
Absolutely.
All right.
All righty. Have a